So we've got 30 minutes booked with you this afternoon, and we're going to do a couple of things. We're going to walk you through our tool, but we've got a lot of information to cover. So we've set it up like a webinar, which means you're going to hear a lot of information from us. And then if you do have some questions as we're going along, just take a moment to find the Q&A, so question and answer feature in your little toolbar. If you have a question, feel free to pop it in there, and then either we'll respond to it directly while we're walking through our information, or we'll do a follow-up after today's session if we aren't able to answer it today. Also, we are going to be recording the webinar, so we will send out a recording of the webinar along with the slides. So if you want to take a closer look at them, that you'll have them available for that. Really today, in the 30 minutes we have with you, we wanted to give you a high-level overview of the tools we've developed. And then if you're interested in delving a little deeper into them or looking at some more of the details, you can book a one-on-one with us, and we'd be happy to sort of meet with you virtually and give you some more of the details. So let's jump in and see what we've got to share with you today. So we thought first that we'd start by introducing ourselves. I know a lot of you because I come from the municipal sector, but you may not be as familiar with Matt. So Matt Ross is also a co-founder of Charitability. We joined forces in 2016 and have been working on data analytics and tools since then. So although each of us have our own individual sort of companies and work that we do, we've really found a strong synergy in working together and sort of what we've been able to do with service system managers. So as you know me, I have a lot of experience in municipal childcare and early years. Matt, though, comes from the AI tech background. So he brings a lot of the data science expertise in AI. And you'll see he led the first AI lab in municipal government in Canada. So really, we feel like we've got a really good blend of experience or strategy and innovation as we think about the work that we do in Charitability. So we've been working with service system managers and supporting them since 2022. So since the inception of CWELCC, I had one of my clients that I worked with regularly said to me, "Don't you have a tool that does something that I can use to assess financial viability?" And I said, "Well, in fact, I do." And that's how our relationship with service system managers and supporting CWELCC started. So with the inception of CWELCC, when service system managers had to assess financial viability to enroll operators, we had a tool that helped with that. Since then, we've expanded. We've worked with 16 of the 47 service system managers across Ontario and have really expanded our suite of tools. And you'll see there on the right-hand side of the screen, the 8 tools that we've developed specifically to support service system managers with CWELCC. All of those tools, with the exception of the financial viability assessment tool, which is one we already had, have been co-designed with service system managers. So certain service system managers have worked with us in the design to make sure that it's meeting the needs of service system managers. So let's just remind you, which you all know, of your requirements by the province in terms of CWELCC, because really you're going to see our tools are going to help you sort of across sort of that continuum of time and the requirements that you have. So before the calendar year, you're going to see we have some tools that will help you with the operator's operational plans and your annual calculation. During the calendar year, the tools we're going to talk about today will help you with doing your reconciliation for in-year and year-end around cost eligibility and cost reviews, and as well as helping you identify and give you data to help you think about direct engagements to report on compliance and what operators you might want to identify to have go through that process as you end 2025 and move into 2026. So let's walk and take a look at the CWELCC tool bundle. So the tool bundle, you'll see, is comprised of dashboards. They're in one sort of tool that we share with you, but it's a compilation of 4 tools that roll up into some summary dashboards for you. So the 4 tools that I'm going to talk a little bit about today are the in-year reconciliation, the year-end cost reconciliation tool, the cost benchmarking tool, and the recalculation of in-year and year-end cost-based funding. So all of those are tools that we use, and then the data that's collected through those tools will roll up into a summary dashboard for you, as well as a benchmarking dashboard. So the service system managers we've been working with in terms of developing and testing some of the new tools are really using these tools to help to get different views of an operator. So whether it's looking at the operator compared to itself, so doing some benchmarking against itself in terms of previous years and budgets, as well as doing some of that benchmarking to your system and other operators in your system. So really providing you with some key data and looks at your operators as you start to think about cost reviews, eligible costs, identification of operators for those direct engagements to report compliance, as well as doing your reconciliation work. So we're going to walk through each of the tools just to give you sort of a high-level overview of the features, as well as some of the values and benefits. So we're going to start with the reconciliation tool. So there's two. One would be an in-year reconciliation tool. The service system managers that we're working with right now, some of them are doing it as an end of May, so doing a 5-month look. Some of them are doing it end of June, so a 6-month look for an in-year reconciliation. And then the year end would be done just into 2026, so you have the full calendar year. But some of the features you'll see are we're using spreadsheet-based input tools. We have the year-to-date reconciliation as well as year-end projections. You're going to see comparisons, so giving you, again, a sense of how well your operators are spending that notional allocation and where they're headed towards year-end. You'll get a site-level view as well. We've had some of our SSMs that we're working with have asked for an operator-level view as well. So if you have a multi-site operator, that will give you a site view, but then we'll roll it up so you can also see a full operator view in terms of the reconciliation. One of the key things that we do that our service system managers really appreciate is we also provide operator training. We do some orientation sessions around the tools. I've also done working sessions. So once we've done an orientation, operators have come back, we've helped them work through the tools, and we also provide sort of that ongoing support. So whether it be email support or phone support, so if people are having challenges completing some of the tools. And we also look for error detection. So we do that both using technology as well as our own eyeballs for quality assurance to make sure that the data going in is quality data. So in terms of the value and benefit, it gives you lots, as I said earlier, lots of views of either a site or your licensed home child care agency's current year spending. And to me, this is important because you can get, one piece of data is only as good as one piece of data. And to me, you always want to have those different puzzles or pieces of data that help you get a clearer picture around where you may want to be focusing. So in terms of the in-year and the year-end reconciliation tool, in-year, you're going to see year-to-date expenses versus the year-to-date allocation comparison. You're going to see the projected year-end expenses versus the full year allocation. And then these other views, which to me are, again, let me just think a little bit more around, does this make sense in terms of their in-year spending? You'd look at projected year-end expenses versus what your operator or licensed home child care agency had in their 2025 budget. And also look at that compared to their 2024 year-end expenses. So again, those multiple views, again, to help you identify what operators you may want to put forward for direct engagement to report on compliance, and also to assist you with any anomalies, which may lead you to questions around eligible costs as in general, as you're thinking about reconciliation, and for those operators that maybe have been put forward for a cost review. So those are your reconciliation sort of features and benefits. So the other thing that we're doing both in year and at year end as part of the input is doing a recalculation of the cost-based funding allocation for each of your operators. So again, this tool, we've used it with service system managers last fall in terms of determining cost-based funding allocations. It also has been verified by an accounting firm. So what we would do is do a recalculation of the cost-based funding based on the year-to-date actual operating space days, and also recalculate each of the components of the cost-based funding. So there'd be a recalculation of the benchmark allocation, the allocation in lieu of profit and surplus, recalculation of the estimated full year revenue, and then a recalculation of the full cost-based funding allocation. And we also, as part of this, will identify any percent difference from the original allocation. So you get a sense of how are your operators tracking in terms of actually spending up to that notional allocation that you determined coming into 2025 for them. So lots of benefit here, again, by recalculating the cost-based funding allocation. So it gives you information that you can use to support operators or that you may want to share with operators, as well as information that will help you as a service system manager. So if you're thinking about information about your operators, it's going to provide you with an update of the allocation in lieu of profit surplus. So we'll give you and your operators a better sense of how much funding will be available to them at year end, because that's the amount of funding that they don't have to have costs associated with it. It's funding that they will keep as either profit or surplus. It also will provide a revised amount for year-end funding based on their actual expenses. So where are they tracking based on actual expenses or costs versus the notional allocation that was provided to them at the beginning of the year. It will give them better information for their 2026 operational budgets and plans. So a lot of the service system managers we've been working with so far, we've talked about after you have the in-year reconciliation done coming into the fall, it's great to use that information, and we can do sessions with your operators to say, what does this mean for me as an operator? So how do I use my in-year reconciliation as I start to think about planning for 2026? Because again, they'll be submitting information for you to determine their 2026 cost-based funding allocation. So doing some information and sort of awareness or education and training around how do you use the in-year reconciliation to help them think about budgeting for 2026. And a key piece for you as a service system manager is it will give you a better sense of the amount of funding you'll have available in year for flexible funding. So let's talk a little bit about the benchmarking tool. So the benchmarking tool is also designed to be part of the package, which means when we're doing the in-year reconciliation and the year-end reconciliation, we would be doing benchmarking at the same time. So same as with the recalculation of cost-based funding. So twice a year, you would get it done. So with the benchmarking, again, it's been co-designed with our service system manager partners. We worked and revised the tool when cost-based funding came out to align it with provincial benchmark definitions. So all of the costs and revenues are now calculated on an operating space day. So you'll see that view of it. You'll also see costs and revenues by site and high-level categories by line, and I'll show you sort of an example of what that looks like. And we also do some visual highlighting for you and provide other data beyond cost and revenue, such as capacity utilization. We gather information about the amount of non-recurring costs and ask for definitions of them, which may help you as you think about eligible costs. And we also collect data about hourly wages and annual benefits. So again, as you're wanting to get a look into your system, it collects information for you. So this just gives you a view of what a benchmarking dashboard would look like. So you'll see that it gives you sort of this side-by-side comparison. So you'd have sites running across in the columns, or if it's your home childcare agency, you'd have home childcare agencies running across, so you can do a comparison. It also shows you sort of the system view. So what's the minimum on each line in your operators? What's the maximum and what's your average? So that's great for benchmarking purposes. You'll see again, we have this high-level comparison, which to me is something I always look at first. It's like, where should I be paying attention? So the high-level comparison, you'll see, gives the cost per operating space day based on these high-level components that are part of the cost-based funding allocation. So it'll say, what's the cost per operating space day for program staffing costs, for your supervisor costs, for your accommodation costs, and your operations costs. So you have that high level. And then if you want to do a line by line, so let's say you say, gosh, operation costs seem to be high in this site. I'm going to go down and look at their line by line. It will give you the line by line look at operation costs and what the cost per operating space day is for each of your operators. So here you'll also see the visual highlighting. I'm very visual, so you get a lot of information in one spot, which is great, but I always like help with interpretation and doing some sense making of it. So what we do is we visually highlight in a red color any site which has a higher than average cost. So you'll see in this case, supervisor costs, the average system cost was $4.55 per operating space day. So anyone that has a higher amount would be highlighted in red. And for revenues, anyone that has a lower than average revenue per operating space day would be highlighted. So again, it sort of helps you visually interpret some of the data that you're seeing. Let's sort of a look at the benchmarking summary dashboard. So the benefit of the benchmarking is, to me, the best part is it normalizes data for you as you think about your cost reviews. So it can be really, I know it can be really difficult to look at an operator and get a sense of how do I compare it to another operator because they have different number of spaces or they operate a different number of hours or a different number of days. So what it does is it takes everybody's costs and it normalizes them down to either the cost or revenue per operating space day. So you can do a direct comparison. Really helpful for cost reviews. So you'll see in the box there, I've put the definition from your guidelines from the province, where the province is really wanting cost reviews to help us start to look at moving towards more standardized costs. So that's where the benchmarking will help you. Again, if you go back to your system and say, what's the average in my system? How do I move people or get thinking about moving people more to the average? So it could help you as you are thinking about, you could identify expense lines with higher than average costs and do some work with your operators around that. You can also use it to identify operators for best practices. So let's say I'm an operator and I have a lower than average cost for food. So what am I doing to actually have that lower than average cost? It gives you some looks into your system that way. It can also, again, help you as you're thinking about which operators you may want to select for direct engagements to report on compliance, because something may pop out of that dashboard, or you say, gosh, I want to dig more into some of their financial data and take a closer look at it. And again, it may help you as you're thinking about the determination of eligible costs. So to me, it's a really great tool as you look at it to begin to identify sort of those anomalies or outliers in your system in terms of costs and revenues. So all of those tools then roll up into a couple of dashboards. And so as I said, all of those tools, so the in-year reconciliation, the recalculation of cost-based funding, and the benchmarking tool all are done, if you want, at mid-year for your in-year reconciliation and at year end. So all of those will roll up into these dashboards that you'll have. So we have 3 different input tools. So you as the service system manager will be inputting some information, and Matt's going to talk a little bit about that. What we determined in some of our past work with operators is that if we can gather as much information from you, because we know it's verified data, and have you input it, it really reduces the data errors that we see potentially from operators. So there's an input tool for you as a service system manager. All of your centers would have an input tool, and your licensed home childcare agencies, and those input tools then will populate the 2 dashboards. One will be a summary dashboard, which will look at all the cost reconciliation piece, as well as that benchmarking dashboard. I'm going to maybe leave the rest of some of these to let Matt talk about as we talk about the features of each of the tools. So I'm going to pass it over to Matt, and he's going to talk a little bit about that with you.
Awesome. Thanks, Jen. Hello, everybody. So well done bringing up those demos of the tools. I just want to speak through the flow of the data collection process, who's inputting what and when. So you as the SSM, you're going to input that high-level information you have on your operators. Goal here, minimizing work for them, minimizes errors in the long run. then we email a unique link to each operator's input tool. Well, we also provide that onboarding, training, resources to support them throughout that process. And Jen mentioned earlier, but these tools are live and integrated. So this means when an operator inputs data, you're going to see that populating immediately downstream into your summary dashboard. And we've worked with hundreds of operators now, so we've built in systems, automated ones that detect those common errors that we've seen, as well as other anomalies, and then we do that manual review. And when we see an error, we work with that operator, proactively to rectify it, keep you in the loop, and then there's an audit trail of any changes they made. This also means that you can make changes, you can overwrite information that the operator put in. There's an audit trail of that, and it automatically propagates to the dashboard. But at the end of the day, the way I see these tools is it's trying to remove the operational stress from administering CWELCC, just from that perspective of the cost reconciliation, cost reviews, calculating the allocations, so that you can focus on leading and growing your childcare sector. And then on the other side, it's making reporting painless and streamlined for your operators so they can focus on leading their organizations and adapting to the new funding philosophy. And with that, I'll kick it over to Jen.
There we go. I know. So thanks, Matt. So just thought we'd give you a really quick view of the input tools, just so you have a sense of what it might look like. So this is an example of an operator input tool, so your centers and what they would be completing. So again, it's spreadsheet based. It's small, but I wanted to give you a sense. So again, they would just, for each of their sites, if they had one site, they would just be doing one column. If they had multiple sites, they would do a column for each of the sites. And as Matt said, they'll get a unique link and it will be sent to them and they will complete this data. So operations data, you see revenue data, and expenses data. And the expenses data are all by those provincial sort of categories that we talked about: program staffing, supervisor, accommodations, operations. So that would be very simple spreadsheet based for the centers. Let me move over to this one. So this would be similar for your licensed home childcare agencies, again, where they would have a spreadsheet base where they would just be inputting numbers into the spreadsheet based on what we're asking for in the first column. As service system managers, your spreadsheet looks like this. So really we're asking you for the information or data that you already have about each of your sites. So what's the organization name, their site name, contact information for the site, as well as the information you have around their cost-based funding allocation that you gave them, legacy top-up, allocation in lieu, all the revenue. So all the pieces that you had as part of making a determination for their cost-based funding allocation for 2025. As well as how much money you gave to them year to date, the date of the reporting period, number of service days, number of months operating. So all the pieces, again, you'd know, and then other licensed capacity pieces. So we ask you to do that both for the center and for licensed home childcare agencies. And as Matt said, once you complete this information and check it off, we're ready to send a link off to your operator. So the big piece where all the magic happens is in the dashboard. So this is the piece I love where Matt works his magic, and he takes all of those input tools and they magically come together with calculations into your dashboards. So this is what the overall summary dashboard would look like. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger for you. So you'll see again, site by site, so you can do that comparison. So you're going to see on your main dashboard all the cost reconciliation summary pieces with some benchmarking to their 2025 budget, their previous year's expenses, the recalculation of the cost-based funding. You'll see again eligible costs. So a summary from the benchmarking tools. That's sort of the main dashboard. That's only for centers. We have the same for licensed home, which I'm just not going to show you. And then we also have that benchmarking summary dashboard where I showed you a little visual of it as well. So in addition, though, to the dashboards that you would have also have access to the raw data. So you'll have access to the input tools that your operators are completing with all of their data, as well as to all of the raw data in the spreadsheet form, so you can take a look at it. As well, we will cut off, once you have a sort of a cutoff date for input into the tools by your operators, they will no longer be able to access the tools, but we will provide you with access. So let's say an operator inputted something that's incorrect, you'd be able to go into their input and actually change it, and it would change on your summary dashboard. So it gives you the opportunity to do some of that quality assurance, which we do as sort of a first step, but allow you to do that quality assurance and make changes on your end live and see sort of what they look like into your summary dashboards. So that's just a little look at the tools. If some of you have used them in the past, we did do a switch. We used online Google Forms sort of as our starting point, but we've moved into spreadsheet based input tools for operators based on some of the feedback in terms of ease of completion and sort of aligning more with how operators are sort of collecting their own information. Each of the tools also, we've worked really hard to have little notes. I didn't show you them, but on each of the cells where we ask for information, there's a little pop-out note that will tell people exactly what we're looking for. Again, trying to cut down on errors or questions of clarification around what type of data we're actually collecting. So that gives you sort of an overall look at what our tools are in our CWELCC bundle. So just wanted to show you a little bit about the pricing. So as I said, it's twice a year, so you get an in-year or a year-end reconciliation sort of tool done, as well as a recalculation of cost-based funding, a benchmarking tool, and those summary dashboards. So those would happen twice a year. So you can set sort of what date you'd want to do your in-year reconciliation, and then we could work with you to move that forward. And then same thing with the year-end reconciliation. So we know, and I've heard how precious your admin dollars are and your allocation. So we've tried to really create a tool bundle to help you with CWELCC management and really to start to take away some of that operational stress that you have in terms of managing CWELCC. I know it's a new role for you, and I know it's very new for your operators. Just they have to think about sort of their organization in a more business and financial way. So we can provide some support around that. And also for those of you who don't sort of have the capacity to support this type of role that is new to you, really, this is an effective way for you to get a really accurate picture of each of your operators, not only sort of as an individual operator, but as part of your overall system. So again, as I think about service system managers and how your role has evolved, it really sort of helps you get that system view as you're starting to think about managing your childcare and early years system. So that's sort of the tool bundle that we wanted to talk to you a bit about today. If you're interested in other tools, we also have a 2026 cost-based funding allocation tool and a financial viability tool. And we also do custom tool development. So we've worked with a couple of service system managers around directed growth applications and sort of building out a tool with criteria to make decisions and weighting them. So it made it more objective in terms of how they would select operators for directed growth. So we're always happy to meet with you to talk about other sort of customization you may want in terms of any data analytics or management tools as you think about CWELCC. So I think we're going to wrap it up for today. Matt, were there any questions in the...
There was just one around sharing the deck and recording, and I just
great.
answered now that we'll email both of those out just afterwards.
Great. So thanks for stopping by this afternoon and spending 30 minutes with us. As Matt said, we'll send out the deck as well as the recording. And if you have any sort of questions or you want to have a more in-depth look or tour at the CWELCC tool bundle, we would be happy to meet with you. So thanks, everybody. Nice to see you.